Wow, Peter, we're sitting in the Garden of Eden, something like that. It really feels so extraordinary green, and I know everything in Scotland should be green, even the golf greens are green, I heard. Anyway, this is Peter Crawford, the best champagne player around in Great Britain today. And, I started with reading books from Serena Sutcliffe, Tom Stevenson, etc. That's where I learned the business. And they are retired or almost retired, and you've been taking over. And it's such a pleasure because you're really Scotsman. You're from here, you're from Scotland.
Yes.
What's your story? Why did you start with champagne and the passion?
So I fell in love very early on at university.
Okay.
I worked in what was Oddbins back then, and fell in love with the beauty of champagne. And it was such a fantastic time to get involved and get excited about the product. It wasn't too expensive, so you were able to drink amazing bottles of Krug and Dom Perignon, even as a student.
As a student?
Yeah. I'm sorry, yeah. But it was a great moment, and of course, I completely fell in love, as you have, with older champagnes, and fell in love with the history. And I think that for me is what champagne is all about. And we sit in a castle that's over 1,000 years old, the ruins of, obviously.
Yeah.
And I love the history. I love going back through champagnes and learning about the maisons and tasting the incredible champagnes.
Champagne is time.
Yeah.
Time makes everything more valuable and better in the case of champagne, which is so rare.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what I fell in love with. It's become a lot more challenging recently, but even growing up, I remember buying 28 Pol Rogers for not very much money, and finding those gems and experiencing those wonderful flavors was
And that's a very interesting connection, because the first old bottles of champagne I had, it was not in France, it was in England.
Right.
So, and there is also a history of this British taste, with more liking the more mature champagnes.
Yeah, and I think it's so easy to understand. Pol Roger is a good example, but there are many others. But it's so easy to understand when you get those great old bottles, how it completely takes you away into another world, a completely different flavour profile and expression. And the English taste, I think, is the right taste.
Yeah, or Scottish.
Or Scottish, of course.
Yeah. Many of the best bottles I've been tasting have been from old castles in Scotland.
Yes. Yeah.
There's still some around? Or?
There are some, not as many as there used to be. Sadly, most of my cellar was drunk by my grandfather, I fear. There weren't many in mine, but I've stocked it back up again, so there's not to worry. My children and my grandchildren hopefully will have many more to come. But no, there are still some around. Occasionally I go to friends' houses, big old castles, and they've still got big cellars.
Leaving champagne for a minute, what is Scotland? How much do you feel connected to the rest of Great Britain, and how much Scottish?
That's a tricky question right now. Look, I'm born in just a stone's throw. So born in Dundee, grew up in Scotland. My mother is Swedish, or was Swedish rather. So I have a deep connection with Scotland. But it has been tricky over the last decade. The union is at a difficult place, but hopefully, I believe we can work forwards and be okay.
Yeah. And the traditional part, the kilt, your own chateau, castle, etc. How important is it for you with your origins and?
Hugely, and sadly, I think modern life seems to take it out of you a little bit. But there's nothing more pleasurable than putting on your formal dress. I feel good in it. I feel comfortable. And it's a lovely thing to express your nationality and the pride in it. So absolutely.
You look like James Bond when he wore that up in Peace Gloria in that scene in Switzerland.
Exactly.
Yeah, but let's skip the audience and drink some real champagne. Grand Siècle, one of our favorites that
Indeed.
we've been sharing many times.
Yeah.
Laurent Prestige. Cheers.
Cheers.
Lovely to be here.
Thank you.